I would say they've cooled off a bit. I would not be that idealistic to say that everything is in harmony in West Dallas. West Dallas has a lot of problems that are still existing and that will continue to exist in the near future.
Specifically what?
Supposedly, I hate to categorize this as a racial tension, but there is racial tension in West Dallas. The schools will be one factor where Gene and I will be working quite a bit in. Recreational areas, police enforcement. We're going to try and make ourselves known to this community and allow the people to be able to relate to us.
Mr. Burton, your alertness aided in the apprehension of a couple of criminals or suspected robbers. How did you know they were suspects?
I had been alerted by the police department of Mesquite. One of them was wearing glasses, colored men, too, and they had the idea that we walked into the station. We would walk to the station. And I just happened to see two boys walking the street, out in the middle of the street from me. And after, the boy that was helping me at the station, he hollered at me, and I told him immediately to call the police.
Detective Lowe, I understand there was a lineup today. Were the suspects identified in the lineup?
Yes, sir. They were identified by witnesses in the Greenville service station robbery on the 26th. Also, they were identified on the August 27th robbery of our service station, and on the 28th of August on the Ennis service station robbery.
We have the figures on the three major banks of the city, who will be paying the city in increased ad valorem taxes $130,000 more than they would pay if we could keep this tax down to 14 cents. They will lose, they tell me. Well, I mean, some of them argue that the bankers wouldn't be interested in the warrants because they can lend the money that they would buy the warrants for at 6%. They can lend it to individuals at the going rate now, which is about 9%, or 3% more. Well, be that as it may, the 3% that they would get by loaning it to other than the city in the purchase of the warrants would amount to about $105,000 as against a tax hike of about $130,000. So really, it means a $25,000 savings, net savings to these three banks if they bought our warrants. And we can see that, and I'm sure they can see that.
most activity here at the State Capitol building for the next 3 days will be guided tours for those who are coming to visit. And this will be the first time in 3 weeks that there's been that long without feverish activity, which has been going on in both houses of the legislature trying to find agreement on taxes. The Senate met here in this chamber briefly this morning. They received the House tax bill, which was written last night, but because of a rule which required the bill to be set aside for 48 hours, the Senate adjourned until Tuesday morning. The House met briefly, and while there was some grumbling about the Senate not taking up the bill sooner, they also adjourned until Tuesday morning and have gone home to see what the constituents are saying about taxes. The big question is, what happens when they do come back Tuesday? We asked Lieutenant Governor Ben Barnes what he thinks of the newest tax bill from the House.
Well, I was disappointed in the House tax bill in that it did not have a better balance. They used the sales tax almost exclusively to raise the $350 million in revenue that's needed. I am hopeful that the Senate will write a better tax bill, one that does not include sales tax on food, one that does not use the sales tax as the sole vehicle to raise the $350 million. And of course, I'm particularly disappointed that the House bill did not have any increased taxes on alcoholic beverages. I have said previously, and I will say again, that I feel like in a state as great as Texas, where we need $350 million, that any tax bill should be broad-based and every industry should pay their fair share. And I feel like that the alcoholic beverage industry should be under the state sales tax. I think we've been in Austin long enough. I think it's time for the House and Senate and the governor of Texas to quit talking about what is going to be used as a bargaining tool and about meeting and trying to negotiate with one another. We're talking about taxing people, and that's a very, very important task of any legislative body. We should be deliberate. We should try to write a statesmanlike bill that has a proper balance. This legislature, both the House and Senate, know that we can write a balanced tax program and go home and get this special session over with.
Coach, there are 53 players reporting today in uniform. That's not very many, is it?
It's a small squad by present-day standards in major college football. We would like to have more, but those are the 53 that we ended up with that we feel are winners, and so we'll stay with them.
All right, what two things do you have to do to overcome, or even what one thing do you have to do to overcome a small squad like that?
I think the big thing that we try to do is take, and everyone does this anyway, but take special pains to study our kids and see if we have them in the right positions and doing the right type of things. In other words, try to take advantage of their strengths and minimize their weaknesses.
And then you got to have good luck in the injury department.
Yeah, you can't lose many.
Coach, there's a lot of people watching Steve Ramsey this year. Are you aware of his statistical standings with the NCAA career records?
It's pretty good. He has a shot at some records, and it's a little bit to his disadvantage, but we don't try to set records here, and if he does set any, they'll be honest ones. They'll be in the process of trying to win games. And I don't think this bothers Steve, and I think it's